If you've ever been in a car accident, you know that the road ahead can feel, well, just incredibly confusing. Today, we're going to map out that entire journey for you, breaking down the life of a car accident case from the second it happens to the very end. So let's dive in.
I mean, it's just such a jarring experience, right? The crash itself is sudden, it's chaotic, and poof, it's over in an instant. But those few seconds of impact, that's really just the beginning of a much, much longer process. So, what really happens next? What can you actually expect in the hours, the days, and even the months to come?
Probably the best way to wrap your head around this whole thing is to think of it as a journey with four main stages. First, you've got the crash itself and everything that happens right after. Then we get into the really critical phase of building your case. After that comes the long haul, your medical treatment and the insurance negotiations, which are kind of happening at the same time. And finally, we get to the resolution. That's the roadmap we're going to follow today.
Okay, let's start at the very beginning, right after the crash. And I'm not kidding when I say this. The things you do in those first few hours and days are absolutely crucial. They can literally shape the entire direction of your case. Okay, so right there at the scene, you've really got two main priorities: safety and documentation. Calling 911 is completely non-negotiable. You need police there for the report and medical help on the way. Then, if you're able to, pull out your phone. Seriously, become a photographer. Get pictures of everything: where the cars are, the damage, any skid marks, street signs, you name it. Exchange info, of course, and this is a big one: look around and see if anyone else saw what happened. All these little details become the bedrock of your case later on.
And look, I really can't stress this enough. Your health has to be priority number one. Even if you think you feel okay, please get a medical evaluation. Adrenaline is a heck of a thing. It can totally mask some really serious injuries. Things like herniated discs or even brain injuries often don't show symptoms for hours or even days. Getting checked out right away is all about making sure you get better. That's what matters most.
Okay, so once we know you're getting the medical care you need, the focus pivots. Now it's all about building the legal foundation for your case. This whole phase is about gathering up every piece of proof we can find to show what happened and why. Here's something you've got to understand. The moment an accident gets reported, the insurance company's team gets to work. And what are they doing? They're building a defense to basically minimize what they have to pay out. That is why it is so important to have someone in your corner right from day one, just to level the playing field and protect your rights. So this is what we call the investigation phase, and it's where the official story of the crash really starts to take shape. Your legal team is going to be gathering and analyzing all of it: the police report, talking to witnesses, looking at photos, even getting the vehicle damage estimates. They'll also hunt down every single applicable insurance policy because, sometimes there's more coverage available than you'd think. Now, in a place like New York, you're going to run into this really critical legal hurdle. It's called the serious injury threshold. Basically, it's not enough to just say you were hurt. You have to legally prove your injury is serious, according to the law. And this is exactly why having objective medical evidence, things like MRIs, reports from specialists, and clear documentation of what you can and can't do, is absolutely essential to a case. All right, so this brings us to what is, honestly, usually the longest part of the entire case. You can picture it like two parallel tracks running at the same time. On one track, you have your medical recovery, and right alongside it, you have all the legal negotiations. And you really do need to be prepared for this part to take some time. It's totally normal for the active medical treatment phase to last anywhere from 6 to 9 months, sometimes even longer. And it's not because things are stalled. It's because this period is vital. It lets everyone get a full picture of your injuries and what your recovery is really going to look like. The case actually develops as you heal. And this is so important to get. A strong case is about so much more than just a stack of medical bills. It's about the real human impact on your life. We need to know: how has this injury affected your job? Are you losing wages? How has it impacted your ability to care for your family? What about just your day-to-day pain and the things you can't do anymore? The answers to those questions are what give a case its true value. So once you get to a point where your doctors say your condition has stabilized, it's what we call maximum medical improvement. That's when all the evidence gets bundled together. This settlement package, it's not just a pile of bills, it's a narrative. It's the full story, backed up by all the medical records and financial documents that shows exactly how this crash has turned your life upside down. Okay, so that package gets sent, and now the real negotiation begins. And you have to be crystal clear about what's happening here. Your goal? Full, fair compensation for everything you've lost and everything you need to recover. The insurance company's goal? To protect their bottom line by paying out as little as they possibly can. It's a fundamental conflict, and it's exactly why you need a strong advocate fighting for you. So, the big question is, what happens when those negotiations hit a wall? What if the insurance company just won't make a fair offer? Well, that's when we gear up for the final stage, preparing to win in court. This right here, this is really the core philosophy behind it all. The absolute best way to get a fair settlement is to make the other side believe you're not just ready, but eager to win at trial. That trial-ready approach is what forces them to take the case seriously, and it's what really drives up the value of a settlement.
And I want to clear something up right away, because this is a huge misconception. Filing a lawsuit isn't saying, see you in court. It's a strategic move. It moves the whole case into a more formal process, which puts a lot more pressure on the insurance company. It's basically a signal that you are not backing down, but it doesn't mean a courtroom battle is inevitable.
So once that suit is filed, you officially enter a phase called discovery. And really, it's just a formal way for both sides to lay all their cards on the table. This is where you have things like depositions, where you answer questions under oath. You might have to see doctors hired by the defense. It can be intense, but a well-prepared, credible performance during this phase is often where a case is truly won. And believe it or not, here's how it ends for the vast, vast majority of these cases. They get resolved with a settlement long before anyone ever steps foot in a courtroom. And why is that? It's simple, really. When an insurance company stares down the barrel of a rock-solid, well-prepared case and they see the risk of taking that to a jury, well, they often realize that offering a fair settlement is their smartest move. So, after we've walked through all these legal steps and strategies, it's so important to come back to what's really at the heart of this whole thing. This isn't just a legal game. It's a recovery process. The entire legal framework is just a tool to make sure you have the resources you need to heal, to rebuild, and to get your life back. Because at the end of the day, the approach that's taken from day one makes all the difference in the world. So it leaves you with a really critical question to think about. Is a case just being prepared to settle for whatever comes along, or is it truly being prepared to win? That single distinction can change everything. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.